All right.
Okay, meeting is called to order. Stand for the pledge. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Clerk Miller, roll call, please. Danielle Martell here. Jeff Conley.
Here.
Eric Morgan.
Present.
Darcy here. Nikki's here. We have Greg Strumkundasing. April. He would be late probably. Okay. April. Present. Thank you. Up first, we have the proposed property tax abatement from Ehlers. Welcome.
Thank you. Good evening. I'm Jeff Seeley with Ehlers. And tonight we're going to start out with a tax abatement hearing. And it's only a handful of slides. So we're going to talk a little bit about one component of the project that you guys are considering. And tax abatements are allowed for parking lot improvements or construction. So the agenda is pretty quick. We're going to talk about the statutory authority, the scope of the parking lot projects, the approval process, and the next steps. And then later on, you're going to be actually approving a resolution, approving the abatement, and moving ahead with issuing the bonds. So on the next slide, the statute is 469.1812 to 1815, and it was originally developed for municipalities, because municipalities have the responsibility of economic development in the community. So it was first authorized in 1997. Minnesota Department of Education has identified one specific improvement that schools can utilize tax abatement financing for, and that is parking lots, because parking lots can be argued to be an economic development improvement for the community. You have a limit on how much you can abate. You guys aren't coming close to the limit, so you're fine. So the scope of the parking lots, there's several improvements, and we're going to leave it very general, so you'd have some flexibility in this. It's parking lot construction improvements district-wide. So the process, we have to identify how much of the tax will be abated. Then we get the parcels from the county, and we go through and we identify which parcels will have that abatement. Now, it is not a true tax abatement in the sense of the word, meaning that the people who own those parcels that we identify are going to still pay property tax on just like they would without the abatement. But what's going to happen is that those funds are going to be dedicated to the payment of this abatement bond. Okay? So the owners of those parcels do not see an abatement. Instead, we abate the purpose over to the bond financing. You have to have a hearing and then adopt a resolution, as I mentioned. You have to, well, first you had to notice this hearing in the paper, then hold the hearing, of course. And then we're going to add that amount, and we're going to talk about combining it with some other bonds as we move ahead here. And then towards the end of May, that's the projected date, we're going to sell the bonds at this point. So next slide. So tonight is the hearing. Tonight is also a resolution. Resolution will approve the abatement. It will authorize us to move ahead with the sale of the bonds, which has several other components involved, and it will enroll you in the state credit enhancement program. That's a program where the state will step in should there be a default. You get better rates because the risk the investors are lower. We are looking at a special meeting on May 31st. This is contingent on the board making a timely decision on the scope of the project, because we're going to sell all these bonds as one. There's an economy of scale with that. If we split these bonds out and do one or two components, then later on come back and do another one or two components of the bond, then you'll be paying for multiple bond issues. and there is an upfront cost for the bond attorney, the rating agency, the underwriter who buys the bonds, the financial advisor, the paying agent, and so forth. So by doing it all in one, you're paying for one bond issue instead of multiple. This May 31st is kind of sensitive. It's kind of quick. So if the board doesn't make a decision very soon, in the very, very near future, we might have to move that back to a subsequent meeting. Okay? June 22nd, if all goes according to plan, June 22nd is the closing. That's when we would actually transfer, or the underwriter would transfer the funds to the school district, and then your projects, you can start paying for the projects at that point. So next slide. So the amount that we have identified is $900,000. Now at this point, we might need a little bit less than that, but that's the authorized amount. That gives us flexibility should, it looked like the project come in a little higher. It was also a little higher because the abatement part was out in front of the rest of the bonds. We had the cost for the parking lot in advance of the other components. So we sized this for purposes of authorizing based on a standalone bond. So all the cost of issuance went into this particular component. As it is, it's going to be combined, but at that point, the sizing of the bond was $900,000. We left it that way because it gives you some flexibility should there be any cost overages. Okay, so if you don't need the full $900,000, that's fine. It's fine to stay with it for purposes of tonight and so forth. It'll be adjusted later. It's a 15-year bond term, cannot exceed 15 years, so that's the maximum. And on a $150,000 home, it's about $10 a year tax impact. So, and that's just for the abatement portion. All right, so with a public hearing, you have to open it up for public comment if there's any comments.
So to clarify, this is only for the parking lots, correct?
The hearing is only for the parking lots. The resolution will have all the components in it, and I'll speak to that when you get that on the agenda.
So the $900,000 is for parking lots?
Yes.
Are there any public comments at this point?
Crickets, I think we're good. Move to approve.
Second.
Yep. Or do you need a
No,
We don't.
there's no approval needed on this part. This is just the hearing
formally retract?
form. There you go. We'll let you use that later.
Okay.
Okay, just put it in your pocket and you can use it later.
We were ready. Just
There you go.
practicing.
Look at coils.
We're going to spend some money.
Ready.
Okay. Moving along to agenda adjustments and approval. We have 2 adjustments to the agenda. One is the removal of action item B for non-renewals. The other is to move item 16A to right after the Apex presentation. So we'll hear Apex and then we will go back to, how did you say it? Ehlers?
Ehlers, yes.
I used my Minnesota accent and said Ehlers.
Okay.
Ehlers. So those are 2 changes to the agenda. Is there a motion to approve the adjustments to the agenda?
Motion to approve the adjustments on the agenda.
Second.
Okay. And any discussion? Okay. All those in favor of approving the adjustments to the agenda, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. The agenda is hereby adjusted. Up next, we have the Apex presentation.
And I'm going to introduce a little bit of the Apex presentation. I've had the opportunity to hear some questions from some board members, and so I think I have some groundwork to lay before we move forward. And so if you have some more, some of the questions were of relevance. So Brittany, can you pull up the 2023 facilities needs? Okay, so we talked about, we're looking at relevance for this, and I'm actually gonna move around here so you can see, because I think this is touchscreen, right, Jeff?
Yes, the big one is.
Okay,
Both are.
so as we look at this, you'll remember, I think there was some confusion initially that we hadn't picked all the projects, and what were the projects that came up on attachment A? Can you pop that attachment A up too? That came in the Ehlers information, Exhibit A. So this came up with,
Or
no,
yeah.
try the one right under it. This one.
This one?
Yeah. So when this came up, this caused a little bit of confusion because it had all of these things listed under here. And then you saw a big dollar amount down a little further that's in yellow. And then it kept going through here, okay? This is just the projection of the scope of work, okay? This isn't saying we're gonna do all of this or this is gonna be the cost. That's what we're working on next, and that's the number we need to get to before May 1st. So we still have the time between now and then to do that. What we're approving tonight and what we're looking for is just the ability to say, yes, we're moving forward, so that they can get accurate pricing on all of this, and then get that to Ehlers, so that we can get the bonds all put together, and do that in a timely fashion. The goal, or my goal with this, and I'm the one that really was kind of pushing, because we could take longer, but then we don't get the money until potentially September, okay? I'd like for us to have the money when we start the project, so we're not worrying about who do we pay from where. So that's just my little thought. So if we go back to this one. Okay, this is what was put together after we had the coaches meeting and after we sat down and talked with administration, etc. And Brittany, I'm gonna let you scroll through that. I think I'm gonna talk you through it because everywhere I stand, I'm blocking someone's view. And I definitely make a better door than a window. And so as you look through here, wayfinding signs are on there. We talked about the curtains, those are on there. We talked about things for the athletic fields, those are on there. And everything that was talked about in the coaches meeting and at admin has made it to this list with an estimated cost or where the money would come from. So you can see we've looked at some of them, it'll say bonding authority. So secondary lockers, new and refinished. We're taking that from bonding authority. Middle school lockers, those would be new, that would be bonding authority, okay?
What is everything in yellow?
Everything in yellow is what we're targeting to do right away. And that. And then the green is stuff that we need to do, that we want to do, you know, but we don't know if we're going to get it. The boiler, we're definitely going to get. That's already in process.
Can you just quickly explain to how the priority items were targeted in regards to safety and health?
Great piece. So as we're looking through here, this boiler has been out multiple times this year. And we can't run a school in Minnesota, especially when we're getting snow after a 90-degree day, without the boiler working. And so that came up as health and safety, that was, you know, going to impact kids right away. We've got some other things that come up, the health and safety, indoor air quality. That's improving what we're doing and making sure this is another piece. Doing it this way will keep the end-of-life units operational. And so this is general operations of the school and what we're doing. Softball roof and press box, that was under health and safety, and I can't remember. Oh, I think getting water into the concession stand.
That was health and safety.
Yeah, that was the part that was health and safety in there. Elementary window coverings. That was construction completion, because that was something that we didn't get done at this point and didn't think about. wayfaring signs. Regulatory and policy, we talked about scoreboards and shot clocks. That's because next year we have to have those for our basketball teams. And those we were actually able to get at no cost to the district. So, because we went out and we had a lot of people doing some really hard work and they were able to get those donated. So as you keep going down, that's kind of what we looked at in each of them. And I can go over this. I don't want to take too terribly much time on this because the next one I think will make it a lot clearer. Can you go to the one that's the bonding authority and the spreadsheet that we made on site? Yeah, bonding and abatement authority. And so what you'll find here is this is a summary of all the things that we've done and the money that we've talked about accessing. On the column A, that's the leftover bonding authority. So that's going to be one of the dollar amounts that's rolled into the bond that we're going to be asking to issue in May. And so that is $1,380,000 that we can use going forward, but we just have to put it into the bond because the taxpayers have already said we can do that. AIQ, that's what Apex is going to be talking about next, and that's all of the indoor air quality units. And we have lots of our units that are end of life, and you'll see in there's some options, which is why the number is kind of big right now, because I wanted you to have options for if we bought a new unit, or if there were units that were still okay and had life left in them, if we just refurbished them, to have those there, so we can kind of look at some of those things. The parking lot abatement we just talked about. And then we've got the construction leftover money. So the first three, the bonding authority, the IAQs, and the abatement, are all what we're going to be talking about in the bonding authority that we're going to be asking for when Ehlers comes back up. Construction money left over, that was the $400,000 we had that we talked about that had already been asked for. And so we put some of the things in there that couldn't go in the other areas, and that we had on our list. So like softball bleachers were in there. The RTU refurbish, because we can't do that with AIQ money. Yeah.
Do you mind just explaining what the acronyms are on this form, please?
Yes. Okay. So RTU is a rooftop unit. AIQ is indoor air quality. And then
AHU and ERVU.
AHU is air handling unit.
Yep.
And I can't remember the one for ERV.
Energy recovery ventilation unit. So it's a way to recapture energy that you're normally exhausting back out. You can bring that back into the building. And recycle energy,
Yeah.
essentially.
And this is the first step to going more green and lessening our carbon footprint, is to put this in. Now, so that's everything we've talked about, okay? As we were doing some of this, there are a few other things that come up. So these are other options down here that we don't currently have budget for at this point. And really, they don't fit in any of the bonding areas. They'd have to go in other areas. One is a ramp and a door. If you turn around and look at the end of the mezzanine here, way down on the end, it's up next above the kitchen. That would be extending that ramp into the wall and adding a door, because what's behind that wall is where the boilers sit up there, and a ton of attic storage space. However, the attic storage space can't be accessed with anything heavy because there's only stairs going up to it. And so carrying, a big desk or a student's equipment, or, it's nearly impossible to get it up there. And so, flaw in the design plan, but that's what it would cost to fix that flaw. And so then we talked about the garage. Okay, Pat really is jonesing for a garage. And we don't have enough storage space, and so he's really looking to get a garage. And he just wanted to see about what it would cost, and this was a cost that came out because one similar to this had already been done. And so it's a unit that is 40 by 60 and it's heated and it has water in it. So bathroom so it could be used and it could be dropped kind of anywhere. So that's a future plan. We do have, if you look at the garages, they're not in great shape. So I mean, I tease them about jonesing for a garage, but there is some need there to put our equipment in, etc. Locker room renovation. I had heard everyone talking about that, so we kicked that out to see, what would it cost? So if we do units in AIQ for recycling for the air in there and making sure the air is right, that's in there already. This would just be for the aesthetics and putting in new plumbing, new fixtures. We were already going to have the lights done in the ceilings. But it would also be like new lockers and all of those things for those 4 locker rooms. And so that's the target that we're looking at. And I know we've talked about seeing about getting donations or seeing about getting other things happening. I just wanted us to have a tangible number to pull out there. And then we've talked about this too, purchase property or whatever. And I just dropped it in at what it was listed for at this point.
Mindy, can I ask a clarifying question / comment to confirm my understanding? So 1.3 we talked about in February.
Yep.
As what's left over from the referendum that was already approved that we did not spend that we can use.
Yep.
400,000 we talked about as leftover from the construction budget. We talked about the parking lot. That's that 850, which was 900 in the presentation we just saw. So the 5 million is like higher than what we had talked about before. So that's higher, but that's coming out of IAQ. So that's kind of, to me, safe money. But we're not being asked to approve those specific projects tonight, right?
No.
We're simply being asked to approve that dollar amount
Up to.
up to as a lump sum.
Yeah.
So that we can keep moving forward with the hearing and the approvals and getting the money by June. And we will still do some work to decide what that money gets spent on because we haven't surveyed the community yet.
Yep.
We haven't, I don't know. I feel like we need to spend more time on how we're going to spend the money. But we're not being asked to approve that. We're only being asked to approve the lump sum.
Just the lump sum, up to that lump sum, like I said the last time.
Which is what we talked about doing in February.
Yep.
It's just the number's higher because that IAQ number is higher.
Right. And you will get an explanation of why the IAQ number is higher. And also, did we get the interactive? Were you able to send it? Okay, so Brittany, can you look at that email and get that ready for them because I'm just about done talking. And then we'll have that ready. So there's an email with an attachment that is an Excel spreadsheet that they can change numbers on so you can see in real time what each thing is going to do. So it should give you a much better understanding of what's happening there. But yes, that is all that we're looking to do. And if you had, okay. So
one side comment while that's also getting pulled up. To me, things like the wayfinding signs, can we just get those done?
Yes,
we
they're
don't
already
need an $8 million budget to have the shop class Prince wayfinding signs. And
no, those things are already done. We had someone come in, we have a bid on it already, it's all in process.
Okay.
Yeah.
So not all of this needs to get held for.
No. And like the
have
curtains,
some money that we can,
we have some money that we can do it with.
Okay.
So. And I will delineate where everything came from as we move forward. Yeah. Okay. Any other questions that you have for me right now? Because otherwise I'll turn it over to Corey Robin-Jerry, sorry. I was thinking Cody's email. And let them go with the next piece.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Mindy. Good to see you all again tonight. We'll start off with quick introductions. My name is Corey Slasher, business development with Apex. in K-12.
Rob Krakowski, I'm one of the lead engineers for Apex.
Jerry Hansen, retired superintendent, consultant with Apex, and in a project, I'm a representative and communicator between both groups, customer and company.
So as Mindy mentioned, really the goal tonight is to get the board thinking as far as what scopes they would like to move forward in, specifically around that IEQ project and a couple of the other items that we identified. I want to clear that Exhibit A was really just a shopping list, right? It wasn't anything that we're proposing that you guys go forward with. It was just during the process, more items came to our attention, we threw it in there so that you, the board, can make a decision as far as what you'd like to look at moving forward with. At the end here, I'll provide the board with an update of some of the current projects that Apex is working with the district on. Rob, I'll let you go ahead and start recapping the IEQ projects. So if you want to pull up
Can you pull up that PowerPoint we sent you earlier?
Do you want the one that you just sent?
no, the maps.
The one with the maps.
The maps.
So over the last couple months, we've been really digging into the buildings and really trying to figure out what you have here and what is current, what's older, what's in good shape, what's in not bad shape, what was done well in the past, and what was done okay in the past. So this is your current building for the secondary school. You can, how they're all labeled out, again, RTU stands for rooftop units. So that's equipment that's sitting on top of the roof that's providing the heating, the ventilation, and sometimes cooling for the different spaces. AHU is air handling unit. So that's a unit that's actually physically inside the building somewhere. Again, doing the same thing, all providing the ventilation for the different systems. FC is fan coil, which essentially is another fancy word for an air handling unit. So when we started looking at this, we really started looking at what your systems had, what was in good shape, what was not. You can see you have everything from 1965 equipment all the way to 2021. The 2021, 2019, they're all in good shape. There's nothing wrong with them. And we said, you know what? There's equipment that will last you a good another 20 years. We're going to kind of put that equipment over the side and say it's in good shape. There's nothing really needed to do to it. The rest of the equipment we started looking at and say, all right, what's the condition of the units? Are they in good shape? Are they something that are falling apart and really need to get fixed right now? Is it something that, or yep, and they might be older, but they're in good shape. They're actually doing what they're supposed to do. They might need a little TLC to make sure that they can get what they need to do. Or is it one of those things of, all right, there's something we really need to do something with it. So when we started looking at this, one of the bigger things that we really started looking at, if you want to go to the next slide, is really looking at both the ventilation rates and then also the dehumidification. So when you were looking at it, we kind of broke it up into kind of 3 different buckets. Bucket number 1 is, what is it that you have for your chilled water system? Now, when you're talking with a chilled water or a DX cooling system, you say, all right, they're both providing cooling. What's the big difference between it? The difference between it is that a chilled water system can properly allow the units and the building to be dehumidified. So they're taking that humidity that's coming in through the air handling units and bringing that moisture out the whole time. So they're always providing cooling, they're always taking that moisture out, and they're getting that nice dry air back into the space. Once you have that dry air, then you have to kind of reheat it for creature comfort. Otherwise, you're going to be freezing classrooms out, freezing offices out, and that's something that nobody really wants. The red side of it is more of the DX, is kind of what your home has. And that is more of a on-off system. So it's really looking at not really the moisture that's in the air or the humidity, but really the temperature. And so it'll say, hey, the space is comfortable, it's 72 degrees, we're going to turn all the cooling off. Now, all of a sudden, you've got hot, humid air coming into the building, dumping into space, and you start having that's where you start getting the humidity issues. So MDE has essentially come down and said, all right, we will allow schools to replace units for either A, they're not able to bring in the amount of ventilation that you're supposed to have as per current code, or B, the systems aren't allowed to dehumidify the way they're supposed to. So we really started looking at the systems and looking at what you have. And some of the units, we walked into the rooms and it's like, you know what? These units are from the early 2000s or 1999. They've got chilled water, they got hot water. They're a good unit. There's no reason to replace it. There's no reason to actually take it and rip it out and put the same exact thing back in. Some of the units were over-designed for ventilation loads, and they're able to provide 100% outside air. And it's one of those, all right, well, that's 100% outside air is more ventilation air than what the current space would need. So again, that doesn't really qualify for IAQ. And again, the units are in good shape, so there's really no reason to replace it. So we're really not recommending. We still provide you guys some options for it because they are 20-year-old units. They might not look the best, but physically they're still good. A good coat of paint, some renovations, better filters, putting some little TLC in it would go a long way. Then the third category that we looked at was the areas that have no kind of cooling, no dehumidification. They're just bringing in outside air in the summertime, and that hot, humid air is just coming into it no matter what. Now, you might say, all right, well, you know, it's a gym. Why would we want to even think about dehumidifying a gym or a weight room or a wrestling room? You know, those are always hot. You know, the wrestlers always want it hot. So why would we ever want to do it? It's migration. It's water vapor. So all of a sudden, if you have a space that is hot in one area and it's not really the humidity there, it's going to start migrating. It's going to start going around the building. Now, all of a sudden, you're going to have infrastructure issues. You're going to have problems with it. Yes?
There's a portion on the map that's not colored at all, a couple portions.
So the white portions are your 2021 sections. So that's why those are whited out, is because there were new units. So we kind of said, all right, we're not really going to touch it, so that we weren't really looking at those. So you really want to, so for the no cooling sections, you really want to say, okay, let's go back and do it. So then you start to say, okay, what's the best way to kind of look at that and do it? So we kind of said, all right, a chiller option is really a centralized plant is your most economical way of doing it for both a long-term cost-wise for energy usage and also long-term usage-wise as well. Because now if you can centralize the equipment, you got less compressors, less issues. In the future, it's less parts and pieces to try to take care of and down the road. Want to go to the next slide? So when we started looking at it, we really started to say, okay, let's kind of look at this as different packages. So the areas in red are kind of that first line item when we were looking at the slides that were shown for the different pricing. And we kind of said, okay, let's put new units on the roof. Let's get new air handlings on there. You know, a new chiller plant to provide the chilled water for. One of the things that we found out once we kind of really diving into it is that the kitchen unit was actually sized about half the size it's supposed to. So it's undersized dramatically. So we need to put in more ductwork, more units, a bigger unit than what was there before, and really provide the right solution for the kitchen itself. We also then found out as we're going through it, the 1965 locker rooms currently have no ventilation system of their own. So what they're doing is that all of the air is coming into the gymnasium and then transferring from the gym into the locker rooms and then exhausted out. So if you think about it, it doesn't work very well on the ventilation side if you're trying to pull air from a separate room through multiple sides of ductwork to be exhausted out and actually get rid of all the smell. So it doesn't work as well as you'd like it to, and so it's something to say, you know, and it's actually not current code. Current code, you can't take air from one space into another. And then the 1999 locker rooms, which is the RTU5, once we started looking at that, we realized that was about half-sized as well. So that was too small compared to what it was supposed to be. So there was a lot of different things that we started seeing that we kind of said, you know what, if we're looking at this, let's get the right solution that's in there and getting the right product all together. Now, one of the things that we really started looking at is that RTU2. You can see it in the blue for the middle school. That unit was replaced in 2019. So we as Apex just wanted to give the district an option to say, do you want to replace something that's a couple-year-old unit and kind of say, all right, you can save some money. We would still put in the plant to handle that in the future, put the piping in for it because we're going to be running right by it to go to the other RTU units and say, all right, you know, you can save some funds right now and say, all right, 10, 15 years down the road, replace it with something that's comparable for what we're doing, but then be able to do that just in the future. So that you can see when we're looking at it, that's the deduct that's on there. RTU7, that is a unit that, again, it's a 2002 unit. There's nothing really wrong with it. It needs a new fan, it needs some new filters, it needs to be cleaned really well. But that's a unit that we kind of said, you know what, we'll give you an option to replace it, but there's really no reason to replace it. That's a way that the district can save some money, be fiscal responsible, and say, let's just spend a little bit of money and refurbish it.
This is RTU 7?
RTU 7. Yep. So that one, we gave you the option on it, but our recommendation is to not replace that unit.
So there's replacement, then there's refurbished.
Yep. So we would actually say when we get up there, we have a 1 to 0 on off. So that line item, I'd say would probably just drop off. AHU 1 and 2, which is the gym and the auditorium. Again, those units are in great shape. You can still get parts for them. You can still get pieces for them. They're a good train unit. There's nothing wrong with them. Again, they need to get a little bit better filters. They need to get clean. They need a little TLC, but there's no reason to replace it. So again, there we're saying, you know what, let's go ahead and refurbish them.
So then how are you going to air condition the gyms?
So the RTU2 or AHU2 currently has cooling.
And where is AHU2?
So AHU2 is up here. So this gym unit up here currently has cooling. Auditorium currently has cooling.
Anybody turn it on last fall? Because it was hotter than hell in there.
That's the middle school gym that has
This one?
the chiller.
Okay.
Yeah, this one does not have any cooling at all.
Okay.
So this is the one that has an old 1965 unit in there.
So you're getting to that.
That one we're going to get rid of. That one, this unit here, we're going to get rid of it.
So which one, where is that on this,
It's right where this AHU is. It's actually sitting up if you...
Oh, yeah, you're looking at that, okay. He's looking at the PDF spreadsheet.
Okay, so if you want to go to the next page. Is that the last page? Okay, then go to the Excel spreadsheet.
I have a question while
Yeah.
she's doing
Oh,
that. For the smaller units that are not capable of taking care of the size room that it's connected to,
Mm-hmm.
are we able to utilize those in other areas, or I don't know enough about that?
Most of them are...
Connect them to something else, or,
There's not a... There's only one unit, and no, it's too small. So even the one small kitchen unit isn't big enough to really be used anywhere else. And then it's trying to find a home for it physically, where it's going to be a lot easier for long-term just to put a new unit on, properly sized, probably on the roof. So if you look at this, this is the spreadsheet that we're talking about. So that first top line item is the IAQ project. So that last page, that everything that was in red, that's got the RTUs in it. That's got the air handlers. That's got the bigger chiller plant. That's got everything that was in that red. That's in that line item, including RTU2 that was that blue.
and what, we're right next to the train.
Yep.
in La Crosse.
Yep.
I get emails weekly from Train how extolling their education packages.
Yep.
So how can we take advantage of that and use a local company?
So we can definitely use Train. I'm not saying there's nothing wrong with Train. I've got nothing against
set
it.
the prices up?
The prices are based off a Innovent, which is also right across the river in La Crosse. But what we're
That's
gonna
the brand, Innovent?
Yep, that's the brand is Innovent, and they're made right in La Crosse.
By
This-
Train?
Nope, it's a different company. They're an energy recovery company. It's just a different manufacturer.
Never heard of them.
Yep.
Okay.
Um,
Doesn't matter.
These
Okay.
they're going to get bid out. So it's because it's a public bid, because it's a public property, or not, public funds, sorry. Because it's public funds, we're going to put together a plan and spec that says, all right, you got to have 2-inch this, this is the filtration, this is the CFM, and it's going to get put out. So it's not necessarily a project that we can say, all right, we just want to pick X. We're going to put together a good design and say this is what we want, and then it's going to be low bid that's going to come in for just the equipment.
So what we do there too is we manage that bid process, right? But we get local contractors involved. We work with the district, identify who they've worked with in the past, who they want to make sure is involved, and then we make sure they are in the loop as far as those bids come out.
And part of that bid package we had talked about, we can also put, the district has the option to pick, I can't remember what the wording is, any of them. It doesn't have to be the low bid, because many times low bids aren't.
Right.
Yep. So we put in criteria that they have to hit. And if they say, all right, you have to be, around for more than 50 years. Okay, well then that gets rid of all the, hey, we started yesterday and we make the great product ever since sliced bread. Okay, well you haven't been around long enough, we can throw you out. So there's lots of things that we've done in the past to make sure that we can get the quality that we want, but because it is public funds, it does have to be publicly bid.
So can I
So-
make sure so Eric's question was specific to air conditioning in the high school gym. And my understanding is that what's included under IAQ is dehumidification.
Yep.
But that air conditioning is not
So,
be able to be funded under IAQ, and that would be a separate cost. So that's not on here, is that correct?
What I
You-
understood from the last time we talked is that it pulls the humidity out of the air, however, it's not air conditioning in the sense of what we think of air conditioning at our home.
Right.
correct. So you cannot use the term air conditioning.
Right.
You have to use the term dehumidification.
Mhm.
A byproduct of dehumidification is cool, dry air.
Right.
So you're essentially getting air conditioning without using the terminology of it. Does that make sense?
But it's removing the heat from the air versus pushing cool air.
Yeah, it's removing the moisture from the air. By removing the moisture, you get 50-degree, 55-degree air out of the units. And when you're sending that cool of an air into the space, your air conditioning. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
It's-
so if you walk into a room and one is air conditioned and one is dehumidified, can you tell the difference?
So have you ever walked in the room and you kind of walk in, it's cool and it's kind of clammy?
I mean, is there a difference or not?
Yes, there is. Yeah.
Okay,
So-
so how much of a difference?
So if you walk into a room and you ever felt like, oh, you know what's kind of clammy in here?
Yeah,
That is the difference between air conditioning and dehumidification. The air conditioning will say the temperature is cool, but the humidity or the moisture level is still high. And so a dehumidification, you'll walk into a room and say, oh, it's nice and cool in here, because that humidity level is gone and you can't get that cool, clammy air.
Are they able to keep up with a room full of people?
Oh, yes. Yep.
It's also more cost effective, correct?
Yes.
Because I mean,
It's not constantly turning on and off.
Yeah.
right, and you don't have low ceilings in a gym, and so.
But it's better than what's happening right now.
oh yeah.
It's terrible in there.
All right, so we're splitting hairs on this, so I suggest moving on to whatever you have next to talk about.
Okay.
I think we've covered this.
Yeah. So the other options that we have on here, and again, this is options for what you can, you add on or take off, is the older locker rooms, the 1965, the 1999 locker rooms, which is the RTU2. Those were areas that either the ventilation was not there altogether, or they are undersized. So those were a couple of options we had in there. The RTU2, we wanted to give you the option of, all right, it's a 2019 air handling unit. Did you want to replace that and get under the same technology, the same replacement plans and everything for that or not? And then the other option that we want to throw out to the district was what's considered a heat recovery, energy recovery chiller. So a standard air-cooled chiller system will provide chilled water for the facility as it needs. The area that a lot of districts are starting to go to in a lot of places is called the electrification of buildings. They're starting to try to get away from natural gas. And so what this does is this allows you to both make hot water and chilled water out of the same unit and essentially not run your boilers for as much. So when you're running your boilers, you're using natural gas, you get more carbon emissions. As the grid cleans up and it's more renewable on the grid, then your carbon footprint at your buildings will start to go down because you can start using this. This will not replace your boilers. In the middle of winter, you're still going to need a boiler plant. You're still going to need to run it. But this is kind of that bigger step towards that.
It helps out like this week when it was 50 degrees out.
Yep. And so then it's the idea of you're not turning on and off your boilers, turning your chillers on and off. It's something that a lot of places are starting to ask about. There definitely is a price premium to it, but we wanted to give the district an option to say, hey, we looked at it, we evaluated it, we decided to go towards it, or we looked at it, we evaluated it, we said for the cost, we're not going to go towards it. So that was just an option. Some of the non-IAQ projects that didn't qualify, but what we looked at was, again, RTU7, where we were saying, all right, do you want to replace it because it is a 2002 system, or do you want to refurbish it? Again, we kind of say, you know what, it's still in good shape. We recommend not replacing it and go to refurbishing it. If you want to go to J14 and put a 0 in that, So this is very interactive. So you can start to see that it's very easy, on, off, 1, 0, and you can start to see how dollars will change up and down. So if you start to say, you know what does it look like for this? What does it look like for that? We can very easily move that around. The ERVU, that is the energy recovery ventilation units. And what that is essentially is a wheel inside a lot of these units. And when you're starting to bring as much outside air as what the school district would needs, it costs a lot to heat and cool that air as it comes in. These energy recovery wheels will take exhaust air that's going out through it and recapture the heat or the coolness from it and preheat or pre-cool that outside air. This technology has been around for 20, 30 years. You have a small version of these in your home now. They've actually gone to Energy Code for homes to actually have these as well. I've seen these running at 10 below, the heating valve shut off because it's recapturing so much energy. It works really well. One of the issues that you guys get into as well is that if you don't do something like this with your units, your boiler plant is very marginal if you don't do heat recovery as part of the new ventilation system, because some of your existing systems on natural gas, and we'd be putting on the boiler plant. So it just kind of helps with the economies of scale with everything. And then IAQ, or AHU 1 and 2 to refurbish it. That was for the gym and auditorium to have to refurbish the side of it. Capital projects that we had down there, Mindy kind of mentioned those earlier and what we're kind of looking at and what we kind of helped put some pricing together for it.
And so if we put zeros in those.
Yep, so put zeros in those.
And so then we're starting to get closer to the number that we saw on that first sheet that was presented a while back.
Yeah.
And the other difference you're going to see here are the two lines in front. On the original sheet that was the 4 million something, there was no construction and budget fees put in. So that would be, you're going to give them examples of what that would be.
So that's for us to be able to put the plans and specifications together for put out to bid. That's getting all the engineers out here to look at it, make sure that it's going to get installed properly and designed. And it's also our construction management as well. So the construction management is for us to have somebody out here all day, every day, making sure the contractors are doing what they need to do, making sure the plan goes in right, making sure everything stays on schedule.
And that's Jerry?
No,
Is it?
No, that's not
smarter and stronger than
Yeah.
superintendent.
So they're the superintendents that they are
They'll be dedicated to this job.
Yeah, and they know construction. They know, okay, you know what, you're running it this way, that's never going to work. It needs to run this way. You know, they're the ones that are talking with them every day, making sure things are done right, and they're the guys in the field.
You didn't have anything to do with our last project?
Nope.
No, yeah. No, I wouldn't have even made that recommendation.
Okay,
However,
so
we love our
we're
general.
We're being asked to, tell me what we're being asked to vote on.
Can I tell you one other thing? The middle column contingency, that may or may not have to be spent. That's just if we have overages and things, if something goes up because we don't bid it out this year, you know, if we put this bid contracts out next fiscal year, we're probably not gonna get the same prices. So we lock in the prices now. So that's to cover some of that. That's to cover if there happens to be, you know, change orders or any of those kind of things. And so that's where the total cost comes.
So that's money back to the district as well.
Yeah.
So that's your money.
That would cover change orders, yeah.
But we won't have any change orders.
We won't. We're not gonna have.
The goal is to not ever have change orders. I mean, we've pride ourselves to say, you know what, let's spend a little extra time on the front end to make sure, okay, you know what, let's actually open the ceiling up. Let's make sure it's actually there. Let's make sure that we can get everything that's right in there. You know, I'd rather spend 2 more days wandering around your building than to come back and say, well, you know what, I just didn't want to open that up and see, well, okay, there's no space. How are we going to run it now?
A good example is the current middle school boiler project we're working on.
Yep.
Right, we had a contractor walkthrough day. So contractors would walk through, they can see it, right? They're not just responding to a bid on paper with a couple pictures, which then can result in change order because they didn't know what they didn't know. So they get boots on the ground, they can look at it, ask the appropriate questions, and make sure that when they provide that bid, that it's firm.
Yep.
I understand on a mutual level if there's gonna be somebody assigned to the bid project
Yep.
here, but on the admin side and school district side, is there somebody that's helping oversee that piece too? Like just for accountability, or how are we gonna get reported to that things are getting done, or?
Between Pat Hughes, who's on here for building and grounds, he's working on it. That's
Okay.
something that I've been very involved in right now. And I've done multiple building projects in my career, so, so we'll be, we'll be working with some of those things.
Yeah. And I'll be the lead engineer for the mechanical side and kind of Armstrong and everybody else for this. And my philosophy is if I ever create a project in a vacuum, it's never going to work right. So as we're going around this and putting this together, there's going to be multiple meetings to say, all right, here's what we're looking at for this, here's what we're looking for that, here's this timing, here's that timing.
We like transparency.
Yeah.
So that's
And,
good.
and the financial side, I forgot this, Julie isn't on or isn't able to be with us today, but she's been working hand in hand with us. So Julie, Pat, and I have been sitting in meetings with everyone here. And once we get a really good handle on it, I would imagine that they'll be doing more of that. Yes.
I have one more question. Brittany, can you scroll to the bottom of that document again? So I know we put the zeros in for the capital, the excess project. And then was there a zero on one that we were gonna refurbish rather than replace, right?
Yes.
Were there any others that we were gonna refurbish versus replace?
That's got all of the, it's now, really is just that one, that was the question of refurbish versus replace.
Okay.
The only other question that is really on there is if you want to scroll up a little bit. So that first line item 7 is kind of that main gut of the project. The 8, 9, 10, and 11 are all options. So if you wanted to say, you know what, that RTU2, let's go ahead and replace that now, then you put a 0 in line 10. If you say, you know what, let's go ahead and not replace the old locker room 1965 because we want to do that as a, all right, we're going to gut the whole inside and do the rooftop unit at the same time, then you turn that one off right now. And then that would just be a future project.
And the same with line 11, the electrification. So if you decided not to pursue that, we would turn that off. So.
And so these are the decisions that we'll be making after they're approving to go into work within the scope of project, correct?
Yes, I mean, the only thing is if you say, you know, you approve the 5.6 to say, yep, we're going to go that, and then you come back and say, oh, well, we actually do want to do RTU2. Well, then there's extra funds that need to come
But
up.
if we approve the full amount.
Yep, so if you
this was
put,
set for.
yeah, if you take off the line 10, put the 0 in there, and say, all right, that's the project that you want to do plus the non-IAQ refurbishing, then that would be kind of that max. And then you can always come back later and say at the end of the month or end of next month and say, you know what, we want to scale this back, we want to scale that back. You definitely can.
Maybe, Mindy, maybe you know, did Pat weigh in on this?
Yep, and Pat,
is
are you online?
I am.
So he can tell you. Yep, we can hear you.
Okay.
Is there a facilities committee that's still me?
We haven't met in a while.
I think the facilities committee is only active when we have facilities projects that we're doing. So they would re-up with this as we get going. And that would be one that Pat would run.
Pat, I'm just curious what, if you have any reservations or input on this project.
I'm all on board. I think it's going to be a great investment for the district. I think it's something that's, I feel, is long overdue. And hearing feedback from everybody in the district and some community members, I think it's a great idea. I think it's something that needs to get done.
Who's responsible for permits? I don't see any mention of permits on here.
Permits would be on the contractors. So they're included in here. So the permits would be done underneath the actual construction documents, the requirement of permits would fall on the individual contractors.
So it would be
Whether
included
the
in the bid.
engineering they'll have to submit the engineering
Yeah.
or architecture documents, those come from you.
Yep, that'll come from me, and I will submit that to MDE or the state for drawing review, and that's included in the fees. So we're the kind of overall timing of this, equipment time is better than what it has been. It's not nearly as good as what it was pre-COVID. So we're still looking at about a 40-week lead time on a lot of this larger air handling equipment and equipment. So, once decisions are made, once bonds are being done, we'd actually like to probably do a equipment package to get that long time lead time ordered. So that way we know we can get it here for summer 2024 construction time. So we'd like to get that started so that way that project can get going, and then bid the install side of it probably separately, and then that would get bid late summer. And then they would all be set up for a summer 2024 time period.
Can you help explain in regard to this bid project, what you guys are asking of the board, or what we are needing to approve tonight, or what the request is for a dollar amount?
I'm wondering if,
8.5 is what they want us to
it's,
approve.
that would be the max for everything that, if you decided you could make the deals.
On this,
Well, that's if we decided not to do stuff. But we're not here to decide what we're going to do. We're just here
Just
to
a dollar amount?
set a dollar amount.
Yeah, that's what I'm curious about.
Yeah.
So for this item, is there something you need us to vote on? Because we've already authorized you to work with Apex as our partner. I believe the next item is where we're gonna vote on the dollar amount, right?
the resolution.
Yeah.
Yes.
But
So
if we,
is there anything we need to vote on for this topic?
what good is it for us to approve up to 8.5 million when we're only gonna use 4.7 or 5.2?
If you know right now, and you guys can say, you know what, we're not gonna do the heat recovery chiller, that's just something that you don't think that would be something you'd ever do, zero it out now, and then there's no reason to go up for that.
I feel like we need a meeting just to talk about
Yep.
But we don't
about
need
this stuff.
But, but the bids, the bonds
I know about
won't
the
be
bonds,
purchased
but if,
until we decide what we're doing. And so you're authorizing a maximum amount, but when we go out to purchase the bonds and what will be done, it can be the lower amount. This just facilitates us moving a little faster through the process and getting the time where we can sit down and have that conversation. What do we want to do, and have a separate meeting where we're looking at it going, okay, which of these projects do we want to do? And we can bring board members in when Apex comes up so they can go more in depth to some of these.
which will need to happen by the end of this month.
That's, ideally that would, but you're already up. You're coming up in
So
another
just
day
a
or
straw
so.
poll, who's available to meet before the end of the month? Board member wise? I mean, are your schedules all pretty flexible? Okay, so we're pretty lean. So in the interest of time, it's going on, I don't know how long, we've been talking about this. I'd like to offer a motion so that we pre-approve up to 8.5 million. Feel free to edit this. But we're, not that we're deciding anything right now, but just so that we can get whatever process started that
And
needs to
I
be started.
assume that the last time we met, we already approved of the 5.1, and now I feel like things are getting slipped in. And I feel like if we go ahead and approve that date, it will get used. Things will continue to get slipped in.
All right, so there's a
can
motion on
can
the
we
floor.
pause for a second?
Well, there's a motion. I made a motion.
Okay.
So if there's a second, let's just play it out.
I'll second your motion.
Oh, now it gets murky. Okay,
Now it's discussion.
discussion.
Like I said, I thought we already approved the 5.1 or 2 that was asked last time. I feel like now things are getting slipped in. I feel if we go ahead and approve this, more will get slipped in. We haven't talked to the community yet. I would feel much more comfortable taking off the garage, taking off the ramp and the door, taking off some things that aren't as pressing, aren't as health and safety, aren't what was our original list when we were going into this.
So looking at more towards just the air handling quality side of it versus the other projects. So maybe separate, get the two bonds, get the air handling bond done, and then look at another bond for the other project then.
Well, no, part of that they're trying to do is
Just
one
one
bond.
bond.
What's
Yeah.
the,
And I
what's the
get
bond
that.
fees that go up front? You know, like, what is it to, if we did two bonds, how much is it to do a secondary bond for?
10 grand a bond?
Oh, no, you're talking, for the full 8.5 with 4 components, about $90,000, so.
If you had 4 bonds.
It would be a little bit less, it'd probably be about 40,000, or, it would probably be about 75 grand a bond.
Per bond, is that
Per
what you
bond.
said?
Yeah, if you did both of them versus all of them right now, you'd be saving the vast majority of the second bond cost.
So we're still in discussion.
Yep.
Um,
Can I add something here? To Darcy's point, okay? I want to clarify, because it's public and it's recorded and it's out there, there's nothing being slipped in here. Everything was in there and left as options. Now, we can just go with what we talked about. The bonding authority is left, the AIQ that we had originally talked about without the fits and the other stuff in there. That can come off. And then the abatement, the construction we don't have to do anything with. Am I missing anything else?
No, if you go, you have a slide there, Brittany. I can show you what the indoor air quality is based on. You have all the slides.
do we need to? I mean.
No, it's, this one right here.
Okay.
What?
I'm trying to keep it together here.
That is what it's based on, just to simplify it.
So my understanding
And
is,
this is the first
we're
one
not
we
spending
approved.
it, we are just having the option. We can
Yeah.
discuss all that later, it doesn't have, we don't have to spend
Right.
8.5.
Yeah.
So this is something we can do at a later date, get rid of,
Right.
or
If we-
whatever.
Yep.
And we didn't approve anything yet, Darcy. We didn't vote to approve anything at the last meeting. We were gonna do that at this meeting.
Yeah.
And so this is, and the reason I raised the concern before is because this is actually the next agenda item to vote on the dollar amount, but, that's not what we were being asked to do under this agenda item. But, and there's many things on that spreadsheet that she showed first that aren't on any of these. So we still need to look at all of those things. We still need to do a community
That's where the
survey,
community survey comes from.
but,
Will a community survey get done before May 1st? Probably not, right?
right, but we're just approving the dollar amount.
and I know,
And then the survey could be done
Got
subsequently to decide
Perfect.
how and if
All for it.
we spend that money.
So I believe we're still in discussion phase. We could vote on it and just move forward and put us out of our misery, or step back. But I feel like I'm ready to jump off that ledge. So we either need to take a recess very soon, or I call the vote. Let's vote on this, because I can't talk about this anymore.
Well, isn't this the same thing on the next agenda?
Yeah.
Okay, we're doing.
Yes, it is. So I
Call the vote. I call the vote.
full control of the meeting at this point. So please restate your motion.
I make a motion, have a tentative approval up to $8.5 million. I want to spend about $4 million of it. So I am more with you than against you, okay? But in the interest of time and efficiency, that is my motion. $8.5 million. It's already been seconded.
And we've discussed.
We
Any
discussed.
other discussion?
Yep.
Okay, Nikki, can you do a roll call vote for this one, please? You know how, so you would just say our names and then we say either yes or no, and then each of our votes is recorded individually.
Okay. April Carlson,
I vote yes.
Yes. Sorry.
Eric Morgan,
I vote yes.
Danielle,
Yes.
Greg,
Yes.
Jeff,
Yep.
Darcy,
Yes.
Nikki, yes.
Okay, the motion passes.
Better.
All right,
Better.
so resolution 2303, I believe we have resolved that. Or,
Yes, we're putting a total of $8.5 million, which includes all the bond components, added up, maximum.
That is the dollar amount that the motion was.
Got it.
correct.
So however you want to package it, sir, to our benefit.
I thought we needed a motion to
Very
approve
good.
this and a motion to approve. I think we're moving on to that, right? That's our next. Are we doing this one now? 2303?
Yes.
That was the, that's the one that just.
That includes the base.
Are we approving?
Yes.
And then we.
And that includes the base.
We're supposed to get on there, I guess.
Yes, that was,
So I'm gonna fight that.
Okay,
this
let's,
is
let's,
the
Meeting and,
okay, let's
We don't need
try
the
to
5
pull
meetings
this
for
back
this.
together. So, item 6, we had a vote and we approved $8.5 million. Do we authorize the superintendent to enter into a contract with Apex for the agreed upon scope of work? Is there a motion for that?
But we haven't agreed upon the total scope of work, right?
Correct.
So
that would be working with us together, correct? What you're asking for is for me to be able to work with the board and bring them in and pick what the scope of work is.
Yeah.
From that original menu.
to start the
stuff.
work of
Yep.
not actually agreeing upon the actual scope, but agree upon working to come up with a list.
And then they can order the parts and get the
And
scope.
Is there
of work.
anything that we can approve tonight that they can get started to order the things that we know we're going to do? Versus approve? I feel like this number 7 is going to be super specific.
We already did so.
Yeah, we know we're doing that one.
Okay, so we've only done one roll call so far. I see 2 on there.
Yeah, that's the one we're doing right now.
There's one resolution that includes both components.
Okay,
It's a
so
single
6 and
resolution.
7 were together.
I would like to make a motion to authorize the superintendent to enter into a contract with Apex to determine the scope of work based on input from the board as well as the community and admin.
I second.
Any discussion?
I just want to say I appreciated the discussion. I know Eric got a little excited, but I appreciate that you guys took your time. I know that's a lot of work, and with respect to a community that isn't able to be here, it's important that we ask all these questions, so I appreciate your patience and providing the feedback that we need.
No problem.
Okay, we will also do a roll call vote for this.
Are we still in discussion?
Yes, if you have other discussion topics, yes.
I felt that all the way over here. So what are we agreeing to then? So we're agreeing that we're going to meet as a board with Apex to go through everything.
To determine the scope of work.
Okay, perfect, yeah. Okay,
And you're
so we're
authorizing me
agreeing to
set that
come up with something.
Yes.
Okay.
And just for clarification, when it comes time to actually determining which work will be done, will that be held in a public meeting and by vote? Or how will it be determined what things are to be done?
Jerry, you wanna?
Have it as a work session or a public board meeting.
I mean, that's where I feel like the facilities
Work sessions are posted.
group should be meeting.
Right.
And the facilities group should be
Make the
helping
recommendations.
prioritize and getting the input from the community and admin and coaches And, I mean, that's where that group would then bring the recommendation forward to a board meeting. So we shouldn't be doing all that at a board meeting, right? That should all be done behind the scenes. But that means that people need to meet, and groups need to meet.
Can you restate your motion one last time?
The motion was to authorize the superintendent to enter into a contract with Apex to determine the scope of work in coordination with the board, admin, and through community input. Any other discussion? Okay, can you please do a roll call vote?
April?
Yes.
Eric?
Yes.
Danielle? Yes. Greg?
Yes.
Jeff?
Yes.
Darcy?
Yes.
Nikki? Yes.
Thank you. Okay, and do we all agree that 7's done?
Yeah, we voted on that already.
Okay, everyone good? 7? Moving on. Whew. If anyone would like to leave at this time, I'm gonna give you a second. Thank you all.
Need a ride, Eric, everybody.
Thank you.
Go to the bottom and get you.
Michelob Ultra is what I, yeah.
Stay on the top side.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, announcements. We have a special board meeting that we will need to attend on May 31st. Is that still the accurate date? Yep. Thank you.
And what are we doing on May 31st?
Approving the bond.
Approving the, oh, okay, so by that time, we will know what we're doing. Dollar sign.
Ideally.
Well,
Ideally.
Okay, well, people will be able to be here. That's between Memorial Day and graduation. The Wednesday.
Easy peasy.
Yep. I'll be here.
Would we have an option to be virtual if needed, or does it, we still need a quorum, even if there's a virtual
It
option?
has to be public, so. we're gonna-
Perfect. Okay, just question, just
Yep.
curious.
Yep. No, that was only COVID time. We could do that. Okay, moving right along. Is there any community input? No, because everyone ran out as fast as they could, understandably. Okay, Caitlin is unable to attend tonight. She did provide a written report. So I'll let everyone read that. Appreciate that she submitted that ahead of time.
how are the chickens doing?
Yeah.
We lost any yet?
They lost some to begin with.
I was kidding. Wow.
Yeah,
they
I
lost-
heard one
Great.
died from my 6th grader.
Yeah, they lost one to begin with. The class has gone through the grief process for that little chicken. They're about this big last week when I saw them. And, getting full feathers now too, so their baby feathers are falling off. And
What's the plan for the summer for that?
so with what's on the agenda with Ms. Traxler retiring, there has been
Chickens are
chatter in the community that they were gonna get rid of the chickens and it was gonna be a project that didn't happen. That's not gonna happen. I've got some people that are going to come in and help take care of the chickens over the summer.
So there'll be a summer class on how to deal
Yeah,
with chickens.
and we only
through
can take
community ed?
3. No,
3 what?
not a community ed, a volunteer
Oh,
thing.
okay.
Volunteer.
Kind of like the community garden is done,
Sure.
you know, where people
Not
sign
that
up to
kind of
help take
take
care of it over
Fresh.
Take care, feed,
take care of
Awesome.
them, yeah.
Well,
Some people would foster them over the summer, like how they would find what.
Yeah.
They could come to my coop if they needed to for the summer. Bring them
Okay,
back.
let's keep moving along. Also, Caitlin hit her first home run yesterday.
Ooh. Oh,
And I believe her royalty did come and read at preschool, and today our classroom post was, look, our La Crescent royalty proving that she can read a book with her crown on and then go hit a home run. Just, sorry.
And also, her mom missed it because she was in teacher negotiations with us.
Oh.
And so,
that makes it even more
talk
special.
about dedication
I got a picture.
to her. Yeah,
Well, thank you for your sacrifice.
right.
It was, it's.
Okay, Education Minnesota report.
There he is. That's Edison Flannery on the left and his mother Bridget on the right. ECFE has been bursting at the seams. Early childhood in general, I guess. We have on Mondays and Fridays ECFE for an hour and a half each week, now through the middle of May, and then we'll have ECFE in the park June through August, 2 Fridays a week. And that's Bridget, who works here, and her baby Edison, who is 3 months-ish, 4 months-ish. And he's wearing a Lancer onesie that has a logo on the behind also.
Cool.
Yeah, it's
That was
adorable.
made
Mr.
in our
Kopp
own-
has one in a shadow
I
box.
do, and it was made by our own students, right?
That's right.
Screen printed in-house.
Yeah, Mrs. Von Art's students made those for us. Designed by me, in case you're looking.
Okay.
Oh, you gotta go back one. We also have 68 students enrolled for 23-24 Discovery Preschool.
So this is 4K, 3K?
3K and 4K. We are currently billing it. This was a revision we had to make to accommodate more students. We offer part-day preschool programming for next year, which will be Monday through Friday from 8 to 11:30. Come, hang, have lunch, go home. And then we also offer full-day pre-K. So some of our classrooms will have 3 and 4-year-olds in them because of the number of students that were interested, and that's 5-day, all day. We're taking people for the wait list. Theoretically, we have space if we're operating at maximum capacity for 60 students. We're hoping that we don't have to turn anybody away.
Awesome.
That number there is what our second grade enrollment is right now. So
Right. It's pretty
that's
fantastic. Mm-hmm.
It just feels really icky to wait list people or
Yeah.
have to turn them away ultimately.
If everyone who had requested so far was counted in that number, we'd have closer to 75. So. Okay, now you can play. This was cool. A life highlight for me, I think. Bob Beeson, Senior Director of Government Affairs, the National Head Start Association, was in town for his dad's birthday. He is Judy Beeson's brother-in-law, Steve's oldest brother. But that really is his job. He's essentially a lobbyist for Head Start and lives in Maryland, and was here and asked if he could tour an exemplar Head Start partnership site. That's us, Discovery Preschool. And so he took my business card and is making some contacts so that we can continue to pursue growth for early childhood. Well, that's pretty cool. And he read a book to the kids. Yeah. Here they are making tortillas from scratch in Spanish Club. Those are high school students. These children went to, I always forget, in Bemidji, right? Bemidji, man, I sounded like I was from here.
Almost everyone calls it Bemidji.
Yeah, what is her name? Paige Shapel. Bemidji. So Petra and Noelia, recognized for being great students who put forward effort into speaking Spanish during camp. I do know, although I never went, that the expectation there is to try to be immersed. And so you're challenged to speak only Spanish while you're there, or whatever language camp you're at. So that's a pretty cool honor. And then some of the other kids that went. FCCLA, I know my Facebook feed has been flooded with achievements by these students, namely Carter Weezer. He was elected to something big. There it was. Carter Weezer was elected as the Southeast District President. Click there to hear his speech. I would encourage you to go back. You don't have to click it, I don't think it's a little bit lengthy, but pretty cool that those kids got to go do that and did really well. Second grade concert. Last night was the second, third, fourth grade concert. Was there more than that, Jeff?
That was it. And that was a full night, and it was the first time since 2019.
This was mind blow for me. I went to watch Marjorie and was feeling tearful because it was my last elementary concert. And then she announced, for grade 2, that those students who are fourth graders now hadn't had a music concert since kindergarten.
Wow.
Yeah. So they did a beautiful job. Kindergarten is preparing for their concert that's coming out. Is that accurate?
May 18th.
Okay. First grade did some really cool art. I would encourage you to walk down this way so that you can see things that were displayed by Allison and her students. And here is second grade art, Heather Galler inspired flowers. So they study an artist and then try to use their techniques. Fourth grade art in progress, paper mache. These are also displayed on your way out of the building in the conference room window. They're pencils and crayons, if you saw them on your way in. And then in the middle school, art is going wild, paper mache at middle and high school. I think that's more of the same. And there's their art. I'm not going to say Giacometti, maybe, inspired art from 7th and 8th grade. And then there's more from art. So I am going to paraphrase per Nicole's text to me while I was back charging my computer. They got a grant through, somebody help me. Some purpose grant? No, it's some big thing.
Department of Education Assistant for Arts, yeah.
Okay. And it's an equity grant is kind of how they've been.
Yep. It's an equity in arts grant. It's going to be really exciting. It does a lot of professional development, which will go along with the stated goals that we have of, through Jen Gepford's report of equity across systems. It's just invoking another way to pull more people into the process.
And it's a substantial grant.
How much?
In terms of finance. I'm not going to know that answer. Info link 1 or 2 may have that for you, Eric.
1 or 2, what?
If you click,
this
should
okay,
be
no
linked,
problem.
and then there's link.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good for them.
Yeah.
Yeah, they worked hard on it. I know that.
They read it together?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and had a couple different interviews. Mm-hmm. Ready, Betty? There they are, chickens.
How many are there?
I think there's about 10 in there now.
How's the indoor air quality?
So
far, so good.
It's outdoor.
Oh, good, okay. Yeah.
It's not dehumidified.
So we don't need to dehumidify the
No.
courtyard then? Perfect, thank you, Jeff.
It's air conditioned.
Right. Ironically enough, the chickens are afraid to leave the coop and go out into the pen area. They won't go into the pen area.
Look at how cute. There's
Are
the
they
chicks
took
again.
off the cardboards?
Yeah.
Okay.
With the middle schoolers.
They had cardboard up around the bottom of the pen to begin with because the chickens were so little they'd go right through the fence if they didn't have the cardboard.
How do you keep the hawks and the eagles out of there?
It's covered
Oh, it is.
in that. If they go out into the courtyard, obviously you won't be able to.
Okay. Raccoon?
That'll be nature.
Still chickens.
Kids will learn nature.
Circle of life.
Yeah.
All right.
Preschool and fourth grade have reading buddies once a month, but it's pretty bucolic if you see them down in our gorgeous little space down there, chilling and reading. You can see that this guy is rapt attention here in the top right.
Engrossed.
And then it's been a while since we've been able to bring pets to school, but this is a remnant, and we found that it's a pretty successful carryover. So when they are doing their pet study in 3K, instead of bringing their pets, they brought pictures of their pets. There's a display down in the hallway, and then they bring items representative of their pets. So Briella is showing off her pet's leash. There are 8th grade verified leaders. I think that how many months have you been working on this? This maybe the
So,
third
yeah.
batch, Court?
Several.
Mm-hmm. The students vote for their classmates. I do know that part. 3rd grade engineers. So these we're working to try to make them hold them. Is it an egg? I don't know. I've seen it done different ways, but parachutes. Okay, I see an East End.
It will be a marshmallow.
I was gonna say a marshmallow.
The marshmallow version of a chicken.
There we go. STEM had a special visitor come on Thursday. The CEO and owner of Inland Packaging came to talk about his business and also to see the printer cutter that Inland donated in action. Did you guys go watch that?
I did not, but I met the guy when he came in. He was super fired up to be in our school.
Mark Clendenny?
Even more fired up when he left.
Yeah.
So, like, he was really impressed with kind of how it's set up and a lot of things that Mark's doing down there. So he wants to come back many times, is what he said.
Did you tell him he can sponsor things?
Yeah, he's already in.
The Crescent resident Kurt McCluskey. No, one more. Sorry, go back one. I've got to investigate that briefly. For being on the Trade and Industry Board and help. His wife just enrolled his children in school today. Madeline, kindergarten next year.
Fantastic.
There we go. Bringing Books to Life was last week, Thursday. It was a huge success. We have not had that in a long time either. Mr. Cobb was a polar bear.
Penguin. A not so perfect penguin.
Penguin.
Or you wearing your bear or whatever else that you were.
He was wearing that.
No, I didn't put on the koala costume.
Koala, that's what it was. Yeah.
They called you in high school.
Regenerative agriculture. Students in Foundations of Cooking had the opportunity to listen to Rochelle Meyer. We can go ahead and read that. Mm-hmm. Go ahead. I think.
Is that it?
Try one more and see. That's
Well, thank you.
yeah.
Thank you. All right, board member reports. Danielle.
You caught the tape.
Greg.
Nothing to report.
Jeff. Eric.
Yeah.
Darcy.
I have nothing to report. I have some work on the strategic plan, but I'll present that when we get there.
Nikki.
Nothing to report. Our next health and safety meeting is, I have it written down too.
Coming up.
It's coming up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Thank you.
We have been doing contracted staff negotiations. We've met 3 times. So far, it's every Tuesday at 5 o'clock, 5 to 6:30. We're probably halfway through. So we have reached agreement on about half the items, and have about half to go. So I would say it's going well. The other item is I would love for us to get the finance group meeting. So is there someone that is willing to get that scheduled and get the group meeting? That is a board committee that has not met yet. And ideally, all the finance stuff we saw tonight would have gone to that group who could have pre-asked a lot of these questions and gotten it ready to come to the board and with a bow on it. I'm not on that group. And Mindy can't always be the one scheduling it because she's one person. So is there someone that's willing to get the finance committee meeting scheduled Yes.
Well, we'll have to do it on a day when, what's her name's here, and what days is she in district?
Tuesday and Wednesday.
Tuesday and Wednesday. And remind me, who are all on the, I think I'm on it, are you on it, Danielle? Who's the other, do we have 3 board members?
I think just 2 on this one.
Just
And
2?
Greg.
And Greg? Okay.
Am I on it too? I was on it, I don't know if I stayed on
So,
And admin people are on it, right?
how's next Tuesday
Julie,
look?
yep, Julie and I. And
The
then
principals are on it.
principals kind of rotate through.
How about the week after that?
So who is willing to,
I believe Danielle started to,
who's willing to take ownership of getting that group meeting?
I can get this meeting scheduled.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And then the other group, which is not a board group, but we talked a lot about it, is marketing. So that, again, that's not a board group, so I have no say over that, but I would love if that group could start meeting. We do have former students interested in interning and offering to help with that. So, and we have a lot of needs, and so, and that is it
I
for
can
my
assign
update.
someone at admin.
Administrative reports, and high school first, please.
Yep. So I'll give you the Reader's Digest version. Testing, we are about 2/3 of the way through all of our testing for the year. We have makeup testing for reading and math that were supposed to be Monday, but obviously got moved. And then we have our MCA science coming up next week. So other than that, we are all done with all of our testing at the high school level, so that's nice. Spring's here, which always brings us a little spike in behaviors. People get all fired up and have a hard time calming back down when you come in the building. So you'll see that probably across all building levels. We're doing a lot of recruitment for next year. So a lot of interviewing, a lot of calling colleges, job fairs, that kind of stuff. So we're working through that process. Jeff has enough elementary ed applicants that he's like Scrooge McDuck swimming through the apps. So he's doing well there. And then the last piece, one thing that I'm kind of looking forward to for next year is we're doing a stewardship award at the high school. So it'll be based on open to any student who attends our high school. They have to show continued commitment to basic community service to the school district. So there's certain benchmarks they have to hit freshman year, 10th grade year, 11th grade year, 12th grade year. And if they hit their 100 hours total, then they get some nice little perks, special court at graduation. We're going to do an awards banquet for them and scholarship. You can read the full details there, and we'll be kind of phased in. So seniors next year will still be able to qualify with a lesser amount. Read the line there.
Any questions, comments? No? Alrighty, up next, middle school.
Similar to Jacob, we're about 3/4 of the way through our MCA testing. It's going well. We haven't had really any technical issues going on to this point, so that's been good. My first kind of go at it with testing, so pleased with how that's going, and certainly appreciate the teachers and making sure that kids that don't finish we're adjusting for the schedules and things like that to get those tests finished up as soon as possible. The only other thing I wanted to add, other than that's not in my report, is our last Lancer Way Day. The 8th grade partnered with Cody Braun's leadership group, and those high school kids came in and led about an hour's worth of small group discussions where they talked about bullying and the impact of our words and actions, and the high school kids did an absolutely phenomenal job working with our 8th graders and not just allowing for one word answers. They really tried to really pull things out of them, and it was fantastic. So it was a great opportunity for us to for those kids to display their leadership skills and kind of give back essentially. And so that was a really great opportunity. And very much appreciate Mr. Brown and his efforts and the high school kids for taking their time to help lead our 8th graders. So that's all I have.
Josh, how often do you think that he'll continue to do that?
As far as partnering with the middle school, I'd like to see it become a regular thing. At least once a year would be great. And it was nice to do it this time because it's, the end of the 8th grade year as those kids start to, kind of transition into high school. It kind of sets the stage for how they should be acting. And but it would also be probably beneficial to get them right away in 5th grade to kind of set the stage for, moving forward, so that we continue to grow.
Or about utilizing, doing that with the 8th graders and then using the 8th graders to do like the same thing with the 5th graders, almost like helping pass the torch.
And actually Mr. Vinzant's that you saw some of those kids that were verified, as leaders, that class lends itself to that opportunity as well. Absolutely.
I love that idea. Great idea, Daniel.
Okay, any other questions or comments for Josh? No? Okay, thank you. Elementary school.
Pretty similar. We're basically through our high stakes testing, by the end of this month. It's going as well as can be expected. That said, there's still a whole month and a half of learning to do, and we have now assessed our students. So just bear in mind that a lot of the learning is going to be taking place out in the field. There's Quarry Hill field trip coming up with the 3rd grade, farm safety, and the science museum for the 4th grade. So it's field trip season. So still a lot of learning happening. It just won't be assessed on the MCA. We have students achieve their objective of reading a boatload of books. 10,000 steps means 10,000 increments of 15 minutes, and they achieved it by I don't know 50% above that with almost 15,000 steps. And thus I got to eat pie forcibly, and get to the pictures and then we'll go. So that happened, and the children called it out too. We did a whipped cream pie, and they're like, "That's baloney. You need a real pie." So I had my assistant put together a banana cream pie, and Jen Latta also did a very good job of stepping up, and she took a pie in the face as well. So we sweetened the deal for our children, and they reached their goal. And then I think it was delicious, yeah. And Eleanor is always out and about. That's the 2nd annual daughter dance, and it happened right here in this beautiful atrium. So we're using this space. This was an art gallery, which now has been moved downstairs, and Bringing Books to Life was a huge success. Because of this space, we can host events like that. So thank you again. Thank you to Mindy for visiting. That is my son. He is a Wadham starting in 5 years. That's weighted average daily membership for those of you keeping track of school finance. And Mindy cooked a meal for us and brought over some swag for Eleanor, so she was not left out. So thank you to Mindy for being so supportive when I had a brief paternity leave, and we're back at work these days.
And what is young Spartacus's given name?
Everett.
Everett?
Yes.
What's the middle name?
James Allen.
2 middle names.
Yes. Lots of grandpas.
Mm-hmm. Very nice.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah, congratulations.
So
Yep.
cute.
Yeah.
He is adorable.
And he's not sleeping through the night.
And neither is Tom.
We're here.
Does Eleanor love her brother?
What's that?
Does she love her brother?
Yeah, and Eleanor is being amazing. When he cries, she runs around the house to make sure we all know he's crying.
Oh.
So yeah, she's a good big sister.
Mm-hmm. All right, I don't know how you're gonna follow that, Beth, but.
Well, considering I have pictures of his daughter in my report too.
Okay, well, there you go.
Trying to steal my thunder with the daughter dance.
Sorry, I know.
Also, I got money, so from NDE, they gave us a little boost. They had some leftover money returned to them from last summer's preschool summer program grant.
Nice.
So we got $68.75 coming back to us to spend in June. Kids co-registration numbers were up to 165. Still trying to finish hiring staff. We were at UWL for the job fair. Got a few bites. Karin and I already talked about, yeah, we have a huge waiting list for preschool already, so we're trying not to freak out about that. Youth Adventure Guides are here. Those, the annual collaboration between City of La Crescent Park Rec and City of Hoka Park Rec and the libraries and Community Ed. They've been all sent home with all the local schools. And yeah, we've had a busy few weeks with all sorts of classes. So if you want to scroll down to the pictures, we've got, we had a wide age range of 11 participants do our Make a Chunky Blanket class. Summer Thorson on the left, Niemeyer on the left, and Allison Frank on the right. And then scroll down, you can see the second annual Daughter Dance. You can see kind of how we had the place set up. We opened up the big wall. Yeah, the Cinderella carriage, and then there's Jeff, Eleanor, and Kristoff. Jeff, Eleanor, and Moana.
She did have a good time. She just doesn't show it.
Yeah.
Like ever.
Over 300 people came, so it was a great event. Wow. And then we had 19 participants in our March charcoal drawing class that we had in the back room of the hub. We were tight in there, but it was really awesome. So a lot of great things. People continuing to come back after COVID and participating again. So it's really been good. And I failed to mention it in here, but we had to reschedule because it was scheduled for Monday, but now the rescheduled class will be next week. But Dewey Severson is officially retiring, officially for real this time, retiring from teaching defensive driving for after however many years. So we're going to be celebrating with a cake and after his refresher class next week.
All right, thank you. Any questions? All right, thank you. Is anyone covering a RISE update? I haven't skipped nothing. No.
Spring sports are going well. He hopes that the weather...
As well as you can do with a foot of snow.
Yeah, I mean, he said he hopes that the weather gets better because it's been a whole lot of rescheduling and shifting home games when we do away games because we had snow and they didn't. And yeah, since there's been a lot of that. So
obviously you missed it.
For next month's meeting, could we hear from him if we've received any additional sponsorship bites? I'd be interested because he's the contact person, so yeah, they're likely contacting him. I'm interested in hearing if anyone's reached out. All right, Mindy, superintendent report.
Okay, and mine will be brief too. Can you pull up preliminary? And basically, I'm just going to talk you through it. I did a preliminary staffing thing. We're going to ask you to vote on it at the end of the meeting. What I like to do, this is hiring season, as Jacob has said. And so we went through and we assessed some things. Really the biggest need is going to be, because our numbers are so big in preschool and speech, we're looking at putting a couple more there for sure. I will know a little more further out if there's anyone else we need. But most everything else we're hiring is replacement of positions and trying to figure out how we do that. So some of the stuff I said between 1 and 2 because there's a potential after we redo the caseload analysis for special ed that we could take one of our existing positions for special ed and move that to a B3 or B6 position to help transition from the center-based program into kindergarten and rearrange there. We also are basically down a special ed teacher at the middle school because we had to move one of the teachers over here. So the difference you're going to see in staffing with me is I'm looking at people as district staff as opposed to building specific staff. So when we have to float things, that's what we'll end up doing in order to move ahead. But right now, very specifically, we're looking for speech and that B3 position. So I'm asking for board approval to go ahead with those. The rest of them I can float and move. And the other thing I'll have for you next time when we come in is some class size things. Right now, and I called it out in here, we have 50 students that are enrolled completely in kindergarten. No, is it 30? 30 that are enrolled.
For next year.
For next year. And it looks like we can go up to 52 that we've got on the list that, sorry, my watch talks back. When I talked to Christy, she said that there's 52 predicted registrations that are coming in. So they went through and looked at the list and said, yep, I know this one's coming, I know this one's coming, nope, we were told this one isn't. So that's the number we have right now, which is significantly below where we've been in the past. So I just need to keep an eye on that, because that also, and it will make people really uncomfortable, but we did it at the high school already with registration, high school and middle school. We have to move people around if there's not enough students in a class, and we have to apply the same logic down here. And if we get to the 52, I mean, we're looking at about 18 in a class with 3 teachers as opposed to 4. And if we go up to 60, then that's 20 with 3 teachers. So I mean, we have to look at some of those, and that's some of the shifting. And I know last year that was not a popular thing that came before the board, cutting a section. So all of that's going to be really thought through, but I'm just trying to give you a heads up that if those numbers are there, we have to take a look. We had to do the same thing at the high school and middle school. We reduced some sections. We actually have a 0.5 business teacher that Jacob has looked at doing overloads with, instead of, you know, putting those classes into other areas, because 0.5 teachers are hard to find. And so this is the process this spring that we're working on really hard in the buildings. You will see a decrease coming in to a couple of the programs too, and I'll have detailed pieces about that coming up. But when we have kids in elective courses who choose not to enroll or vote with their feet during registration, then we have to adjust that FTE accordingly. So that's my report on that. This is just the preliminary, so that'll be what I'm asking you to approve later in the. Any questions?
Okay, on to number 14, which is review and informational items. The first item is cybersecurity incident preparedness. I put this on, for those of you who don't know, the Rochester School District suffered a cybersecurity incident and had to shut the school down on Monday last week. They did have students return to classes Tuesday, but had no access to electronic devices, or their Google Cloud was shut down. So kids had to actually learn how to write with pencils and paper. And it was pretty disruptive. They were not prepared for it. Mayo has had some interaction with the school district to offer assistance. And I wanted to put it on our agenda because I want to make sure that we're as prepared as we can be, because it's very likely this will happen. They are targeting, for those that don't know, I do work in data security in my day job. And so we're educating and following what's happening in the industry every day. They are targeting hospitals and they're targeting schools. In Minneapolis, they took files from one of the Minneapolis school districts and published student records. And so it is happening. It's ridiculous, like why target schools and hospitals, but they're doing it. So I wanted to make sure I did ask Mindy, like, what is our IT contractor doing to help us be prepared for this? Are we segmenting our networks? Do we have a backup plan? Right, like in a hospital, when you can't get to your systems, you have binders that you go to so that you can still document records. And and I know we had the one issue here where our internet was down, and the security doors didn't work, and because all that's connected. So, and we had to send kids home because it was a safety issue. So obviously not looking for, a robust plan tonight, but, we have to make sure that there's some sort of plan in place. What are we going to do if we can't get to all those Google Classroom, or kids can't use their devices, or the internet's down. Do teachers have like one textbook in the room that they could use? Or, my guess is not, right? Do the whiteboards or the electronic boards work? Do they have something they can do to teach for a week, if that were to happen? So just to get discussion about that and make sure that we're prepared, because it's more likely it will happen than not at the rate things are going.
So we're working on a plan?
Yep, and just to address a couple of things, when I talked to our new technology group that we're working with, Ed Midwest, and the gentleman's name is Jeff Wine. He also worked with Region 5, who had a cybersecurity breach that went into their payroll system and all of those things. So what we're doing is, as April said, he's working on segmenting the network. And so you hear people grumbling about, well, they're taking me off this or off that. Everything will still work the same, but it just won't have the access through all the servers, because right now, everything we do, like door access locks and printing transcripts or any of those, goes through 4 different servers at a time, and nothing segmented, so it would be very easy to get in. Our door controls use a VLN system where you have to call in you need to call into it from outside. That opens a gateway too. So we're working on those things to be preventative on that end. And then we'll be working with principals and staff in the schools for what are the things we're going to be doing. What does a pencil look like? And
how do we have pencil sharpeners?
Yeah, exactly. So when you actually said that they had to figure out a pencil, I was thinking, I'm envisioning this being a little bit similar to when we had put the 5-gallon buckets with the toilet seats in the classroom and the extra toilet paper in them, just in case we had a break-in in the school or there's an intruder in the building and people were supposed to stay in place. I'm picturing we'll just reuse those and put paper and pencils, those kind of things in there too.
Does the health offices have paper copies of all the kids' needs?
Yeah. I'm pretty sure they do.
Yeah, that was one of the issues Rochester had, because I had an employee, and her son takes medication, and the nurse couldn't get to his record to see what should be administered, and they had to call her. So, yeah, everything's online.
So we're working on some of those things. It's a plan in progress, but there are some pieces down.
Thank you, April, for bringing that.
Any other comments, questions on that one? Okay. Budget update?
Julia's unable to be with us today, and there was some reason why she couldn't get the budget update included if it was in here, so we will put it back in once we get it. I'll make sure you get it.
All right, pupil enrollment. So it went up a little.
It seems to go up as the ages go up.
Where's the Kersey bump? 7 or 6?
No, I think 8.
All right, any discussion on that? Good, keep going. Student behavior. Anyone like to comment on these numbers?
Just because there's a bullying incident report doesn't necessarily mean that it is found to be bullying. That means that it was reported.
And just kind of like I mentioned briefly, spring you always see a little bump. There's certain times a year where you always see a little spike. Right after winter break, there's always a spike. You always see, as soon as the weather gets warm, you see a spike. So it's not surprising that all 3 buildings with a little jump up.
Senioritis and Five Guys just opened.
Yes.
A real thing.
Yeah.
Can you explain again and just run through what those acronyms mean, please?
VR is behavior referral.
Yep.
SUS means an out of school suspension. And the VIR is a bullying incident report. So again, not necessarily the bullying was found, but that someone reported it.
Thank you.
Good to see that they're utilizing it and they see it.
Yeah, there's a key in the top corner. Cut off. You see it maybe? For the abbreviations, they have a key in the top corner.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I can't see that.
And of course, you're furthest away from the board.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments, questions on that? All right, moving right along. Superintendent's evaluation. So I did receive feedback from all board members. Thank you, everyone. Sorry, I had to bug some of you.
Sorry, it was late.
Yeah, it's okay. I will provide you with a printed copy, Mindy, of the redacted feedback from board members. I will summarize the feedback. There was 3 topics that we asked questions about for the evaluation. Strategic plan, so how is that going? Number 2 was facilities planning. 3 was discipline and support of the admin team related to discipline. And then there was a general overall. And just to summarize what was received, for strategic plan, I think the overall feedback was very positive. That work's being done. We've had a large gap in this area for quite some time. Some board members would have liked to have seen this farther along at this point in the year, but do recognize that you're one person and there is a lot of things that you are trying to address in the district right now. So overall, though, very, very positive. And we're very thankful that you're here. The facilities planning, again, very positive. There's been clearly, as we saw tonight, a lot of work in that. There's been a lot of things that have been unaddressed and not taken care of the way it should have been. So we very much appreciate all the work you put into that, as well as, you know, the admin team and Patrick, who's given you support, and Araya, I know, has done a lot. I think, you know, you'll see the comments from that, but it was all very positive. Thankful that you're getting this taken care of, and so that was positive. 3, related to discipline, probably was the biggest area for opportunity, and it wasn't due to your support of admin. People felt that you are supporting admin and gave, like, the cell phone policy was an example of implementing that. You're supporting enforcement of it, but that it was kind of an interesting divide. Some board members felt like discipline has improved greatly, and other board members felt like it's actually gotten worse. And, you know, but we all recognize that you are, again, one person, and you're spending a lot of time working with the admin team and in buildings, and not able to be at a district level for some of these things. And so we would like, you know, to be able to see you work more at the district level and rely more on the admin team to take care of admin things, and to be able to, you know, work on policy, work on, you know, the strategy, the facilities things, so things at more of the superintendent level. But again, you're one person, you can't be on every committee, you can't be in 10 places at once, and there's a whole lot of things that we have some area for opportunity for. So we thank you for you know, the work that's been put into that, but we think there is definitely some opportunity related to discipline. And then generally, again, feedback very positive. Everyone just thinks, you know, you're doing such a good job. So thankful that you came to our district and aren't afraid to tackle these problems and these issues that have been kind of let go for years, and that you're addressing them. But again, you're one person. You know, we have to be able to rely on your admin team to do their jobs, and then you can then do your job. So overall, just very, very positive feedback. We appreciate all the work you've done, and all the improvements that the whole team has made throughout the year, and are looking forward to seeing those continue to do better.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you, everyone. Appreciate
Thank you.
Appreciate
Happy
the time you put in.
birthday.
It's your birthday?
Yeah. It's my birthday today.
Wow.
I'm so sorry. Happy birthday.
Thank you.
Yeah. Hey, you got a birthday? Sure. What, slow your roll.
Okay.
Darcy, do you want to comment on next steps with the evaluation? Like what happens next?
I will have to go over a little bit more of that with Mindy.
Okay.
But this was like our mid-year
Right.
on our adjusted plan, and
Yep.
so then at the end of the year, we'll do the more formal end of the year eval, and then start to place our goals for next year.
Yep. That sounds good. This was just kind of the check-in, like, hey, we should probably be doing an eval. Let's pick our top 3 things and get her done. So, okay.
Well done.
And thanks for your work on this, Darcy, too.
Thank you.
And April.
Okay, up next, we have the Narcan policy and procedure.
I don't know if we have anything on this right now.
Yeah, it's kind of at a hold. I can speak to it a little bit. The last time we met, we needed to get some further clarification regarding liabilities, and we're still waiting for some feedback on that. So appreciating the patience, Lauren's patient, she's understanding that the procedures aren't that we can make a policy and enact something day 2. It does take a process because we have to present to publicly. Is it 3 times?
It has to come to the board table 3 times.
Yeah, board table 3 times. So she's understanding that if and when things move forward with it, it probably won't be initiated until next school year.
And
so
MSBA finalize
Yeah.
their policy on it?
I was gonna say,
email on
Brittany,
that.
when we contact MSBA, are we charged for that, or is that included?
No.
Because they've been working on that same policy, so maybe consulting with them.
Or getting it to Lauren.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've already done that.
Is that the part, is that what got them started on it? Is us asking, or?
No, we've been working on it. It's the liabilities piece with insurance regarding what is covered, what's not. The variables is what we need to make sure are covered for a CYA.
And they couldn't give us any help on that?
It's district. The policy, so they have a model policy that we can go by, and even that, has that been released as final, or is that still model?
It's still draft.
Draft,
I
yeah.
haven't checked for a while.
Mm-hmm. There are some districts that have started and initiated a policy. Technically, what happens with model policies is we can be more strict than the model policy, but we can't be less. So we have to just make sure all stakeholders involved are covered in the event that something goes south. Because it's a touchy subject. Yep. Just make sure everybody's safe.
There is an MSBA webinar tomorrow. I saw the email pop up since we've been here tonight, so I did forward that to you guys.
Thank you.
Topic? Opioid medication, yes. Naloxone toolkit for schools. It's with MDE. There's a PowerPoint, 34 pages in here. So I sent that off to you guys.
Thank you. I know the DEA sent out some releases over the last few months too, regarding Narcan and fentanyl and finding horse tranquilizers and other animal things and Narcan is not being effective. So it gets tricky. So that's the reason why we need to cover our make sure the liabilities are there.
Okay. Well, thanks for your continued work on that. We'll look forward to the policy when it's ready. we could probably take it off the agenda until it's ready.
Yeah,
Come back.
I think so.
Okay. Any concerns with that?
Nope, that's, and hopefully we'll have it ready for next school year.
I hope so too, yeah.
So next is the internet acceptable use safety policy. I updated this one. There's a lot of updates, so there's nothing controversial. It's all normal stuff. Like, don't look at porn. Don't, the normal
Don't look
stuff.
at someone else's porn.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. True story.
Don't take pictures in class and put it on TikTok, right? So there's all the normal stuff.
Yes.
The one thing I will mention is a hot topic. I know the admin team talked about it here, and we're talking about it at work too. Is like the AI and Chat GPT topic, and people, students. I don't know about here specifically, but I know at universities they are using it to write papers, which is cheating, right? And so we will be drafting a policy that does cover using that type of AI and technology to write papers. It's cheating.
Do you have a way to detect whether it comes from that, or?
Yeah, there's websites you can put it into, and it basically analyzes the document to see if it fits basically the AI algorithm that it would use to create things.
And there's something a teacher could click on and check that?
Yeah, you basically copy and paste the paper into...
It's kind of like Google for...
Yeah.
It's like a plagiarism checker.
Yeah, very simple.
Yeah.
And it gives you a percentage likelihood. So that's how we found some that they come back at like 98, 99% likelihood that it went through.
I shouldn't laugh, it's not funny.
And then you can check the history on the document. You can see that it was all cut and pasted within 6 seconds. It's like, okay, so it's clearly cut and pasted from somewhere.
Got it.
With a 99% likelihood that it came from an AI assisted method. It's pretty likely that you did write your own paper.
And there was one suggestion that it could fit into this internet use policy, but I don't think so, because I think this is really about misappropriate use of the internet while at school, like looking things up you shouldn't. And that topic is really about plagiarism and cheating. And to me, it's different. So we'll be drafting a policy, or it could go in the code. So we'll talk more about that, but clearly there is a need, not just here, but in many different areas of some guidance.
Can it be used as a resource to get started?
Are you talking for students? Or?
Yeah.
It's not, you don't look something up on it. It's not.
You go on it and
it's not a
you hand them prompts, right?
What's that?
You give them a prompt and they reply, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, and that's you not even gonna let them do that, or?
But it's not. There's no verification that what it's replying with is accurate. It's just words.
Right.
So it's not going out and looking up credible resources, right? So I guess they could cite Chat GPT, but
yeah, and it's tricky because one of the issues of AI is that it will make up an answer whether it knows it or not.
Right.
So if you asked it, I don't know, what size shoes does Jeff Conway wear? It's going to give an answer that may or may not be true. So that's one of the dangers of using it as a starting point or a resource, is that you have no idea of knowing if what it's giving you is a real answer.
What level are we having those conversations with the students about what's a good resource and what's not a good resource, and how do you?
I would say that comes up all over the place. That's something that even at elementary school they talk about. Okay, if you're going to look something up, what are good places to look it up, and what are not so good places? Because I know that Ben's come back with stuff, in second grade that, this is a good source, this is not a good source.
The IT person should be able to block it. They could still go off the school network and look it up, but they could block ChatGPT.
Yep.
Is there another policy on here? I feel like there was two when I looked.
I just did the one.
Oh, it's the prom one.
That's coming up.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, sit tight.
I know, I was like, that's right, it's not too long.
Yes. Okay, that is it for review informational items. Consent agenda.
Move to approve.
Second.
Okay, any discussion with the consent agenda? I have a discussion item for the consent agenda. For the coaches, I don't think we should say effective immediately. I think we should actually list either the beginning of the sports season or the day they sign the contract, because otherwise it looks like we didn't have coaches in place when the season started. So it wouldn't be effective today. It would be, we need to put the actual dates on there.
When they're starting, actual starting.
Yes. Because these people have all started. And then can we pull up donations, please? The mouse. Did you just send the card? Thank you. Any other discussion on the consent agenda? Thank you. We have the motion. Okay, all in favor of approving the consent agenda, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
Two retirements on there too.
Yep, so we want to call out retirements. We have 2 retirements, Christy Traxler from FACS and Donna Wojciechowski.
Wojciechowicz?
Wojo, they call her, yep. Yeah, I almost did the Barney Miller Wojo thing, that's why I paused there. I was like, okay, I know that's not it, but. And so just I spoke to both of them. Jacob might be able to speak a little bit to them, but they're both very excited to be able to start this next portion of their life, and wanted to make sure we knew far enough in advance so that we could find suitable replacements. And that was one of the topics that we talked about at negotiations is, you know, how soon is it that it would be nice to get those. And I really appreciate it and want to thank them from the superintendent's perspective, because if we can get these in by April, we actually have, you know, the ability to go out and hire people. Now, availability is something different, because I know FACS is going to be difficult.
FACS is going to be tough, so if you know anyone who, you know, is a teacher who happens to like to cook and wants, you know, to switch, or, yeah, that's going to be a tough one to fill.
It is nice to have that heads up so that you have the ability to get quality staff.
And so
that's really important for our kids.
And I'm really, that's one of the things I'm very, very proud of with our staff, is that most of them had given us a lot of heads up so that we can take care of those. And that's what I want to continue to build, so that we know ahead of time.
Did I fall asleep did we look at donations? Yes. Sorry, I'll look at them later.
It was just the mouth and 2 robotics.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, on to action items. Okay, the first 2 we've taken care of. Strategic planning proposal decision.
Okay, can you pull up the summary, and Darcy, do you want to talk about it? I put together just a little printed summary.
Okay.
Or actually, I had Jen put it together. She and I talked about it. Jen Gephardt put it together. And then we reviewed it in the admin team today too. So we've covered it in the multiple.
They bring a recommendation, or?
Well, why don't you go through and talk about what you had, and then we'll talk about.
Okay. So I had talked with Mindy and April. There were 6 of them. I'm not sure if you guys got a chance to look at them. Varying in prices, kind of all over the board. I did make some reference phone calls today, and I spent a lot of time actually talking to Gary Kupel today. That was really pleasant. He had kind of reassured me my 2 recommendations was going to be MSBA or Rachel and Gina. And he has worked very closely with both of those teams and said basically he would not hesitate to hire Rachel and Gina. They did come in over, gosh, it was almost half the price as MSBA. And he was just thrilled that that was an opportunity for us. But MSBA has been easy to work with as well. Mindy has worked with them and had experience with them before. I feel like they're the very safe option for us to go. However, with us being a nice fresh board, I personally like the idea of taking a chance. And I think Mindy's experienced enough to go with that flow. I don't know if you guys have any questions on them. Both of the plans have the very same timelines. They both access the same groups for information, being students and parents and teachers and admin and board. So if you looked at their plans side by side, I think one of the downfalls of MSBA is it's all done remotely. She does not come down here. She is not in person. She is not leading these. I did talk to her when I was at the conference, and she could do this process in her sleep. She's very, very knowledgeable on it. But Rachel and Gina will be here. They will be in person. They will be, I think, because of their close proximity, very easy to work with.
And they're
my
not
final
small town.
recommendation.
They know the small town.
They know our area. They know our concerns. They know more.
Yep.
Yeah.
And as you can see, I worked with this with Jen Gepford because she has the tie back to what the plan was the year before you hired me, and a lot of what was based off of there. And so we talked, and then I brought it to the admin team too to try and see what their thoughts are. If you go up to the top, the 3 recommendations we had, so we kind of brought it in half, were MSBA, Rachel and Gina, and Teamworks. Okay. I too knew that MSBA was virtual. The other thing about MSBA is when they finish, they call it a plan on a page. And so there's nothing, it's not like a strategic plan that you've seen before where you say, these are how you're going to get to this step. There's no action plan with it.
Other thing that Gary said is when they get to the end of the process, it is their hands off then. They
Yeah,
give it
then
to
they're
us,
done.
and then it's all on everybody here.
Yeah.
And we do feel that Rachel and Gina will help implement it just a little further.
Yeah, well, and so when I talked to Rachel and Gina today, or I talked to Rachel today, not Gina, and asked her a couple of questions, because the one thing that came up to us when we were reading it is Rachel and Gina's plan, they talk about a 100-day plan or a 90-day plan, so you plan in little chunks, which is something that people are doing now. However, we asked the very specific question, will we have a 3-year or a 5-year plan when we're done with this? And the answer is no. You will have up to a year plan, and then you just keep cycling each of those 90 days and figuring out what's the next step on that year plan. But then it would be kind of redoing the process at the end of the next year.
And MSBA's is a 2-year plan.
Was it a 2-year? Okay, I thought it was 3. And Teamworks is a 3-year plan.
Oh, okay.
And so they gave, so I'll read you what she said back. So that was one of the things that Rachel told me. She said that, they would be willing to contract for more, but the 35 hours. So when you look at, it says 35, 7,500 or 35. That's a maximum of 35 hours in the cost. So that gets to be about $215 an hour. And so that would be additional cost if we had them come back and do other things. If you look at a 2-year plan, or if you look at a 3-year plan and figure the 7,500, we're almost at the same price for the 2-year plan with MSBA or the 3-year plan. And those are pieces of information I got at the end of the day.
Okay.
Because as we had our admin team meeting from 3 4:30 to 4:15. I got a call back from Rachel.
Okay.
What she said in the text to me afterwards, because I was gonna call her back after we were done and then I got too busy. She said, I would summarize that I think you have a really good framework. That's the other thing she said, is that the goals we called out in that plan are really good. She doesn't think they have to be reworked a lot. Mission and vision I talked to her about, and she said, the goal right now is getting down to like a 3-word, or a couple of sentences at max, mission and vision. The way I've heard it described is something a 7-year-old could understand. And that's just a quick liner, and that was when Ron Wilkie was here. And we were talking about that when he went to the next school he went to after this. He told me what their vision was, but it was only like 3 or 4 lines, 3 or 4 words. So that is the way it's going.
So, sorry, are you recommending that's who we go with?
No, I'm just telling you what, I was going back to what she said. When we talked, we recommended Teamworks.
Oh.
And that is the admin team. And they went into a great deal of discussion about it. Teamworks has a proven track record. They've been in states. They've done a lot of work with communities. They're very transparent. If you look at some of the websites that are linked into this document, you can see how transparent they are and how you can just go in and it gives all the vision and the mission, and they talk about the whole process, and that's all done for you as a district. So Teamworks puts that all together, and Teamworks finishes up that last part of what they're doing. So like right here, Eastern Carver County. So you've got everything here and everything's applicable. They went through their core values and pulled it all out. So it's just the differences in what you're doing.
Are they in person?
Yes.
Okay, none of their references called me back.
Yeah, they said they were in person. They'll be in here in person.
And that's a 3-year plan?
Mm-hmm.
What does it cost again?
This one is it 22?
I've got the varying levels, full service or less.
And that would be facilitated online instead of, you know what I mean, when you go down a little bit. There's different things.
Travel expenses are additional?
Yes. And I did find out where they were. At first I got really hopeful because Beth told me where they were and I looked it up and it looked like it was 8 miles away or 18 miles away. But no, they're up by Anoka, or in Anoka County.
So, and what did you like about them versus?
The 3-year plan for sure, and everything was put together. They did have the action planning forms on it, so it would be something we could readily take and move ahead with. The other thing we looked at is it's a format that as we go through, we would learn how to put it together, and so there shouldn't be ongoing costs afterwards. We should be able to just keep updating in year 4 and year 5, but we have a really good base. The other thing we really liked about it is because the process is so engaging with the community and they really work to bring all the stakeholders together and to do the documentation of that, and then they will put it on. It also builds some of the communication plan things we're talking about, and the marketing pieces of the strategic plan are built right into this.
Brittany, could you put up the Eastern Carver County one again? And then, once that's up there, scroll down, vision cards. That graphic right there, if you can blow it up a little. It's that visual, easily viewable accountability that we've been talking about that we want to be able to show, but that's how they boil it down for you.
I would like to make a motion to support admin's recommendation of moving forward with Teamworks for the strategic planning.
And a second?
Any discussion?
There's quite a price difference there.
Do you know, did they offer, and I was trying to just look it up quick, MSBA offers board self-evaluations in their strategic planning? Did Teamwork cover anything like that?
I didn't look for it, so I don't know, but we can.
They did make mention, or Jen had referenced, that they, what did she have at the bottom? Something about good board.
Oh yeah, I did see that one.
I don't remember exactly what it said, but it was.
And they have great graphics.
Uh-huh. And you can look at Hastings too. They've done the same work for Hastings, but it's branded to their brand.
Branding, marketing and outreach.
Yeah. And they were the only ones that did follow up.
Yep.
After submitting their proposal.
Yeah. They emailed and called district. Brittany doesn't call, and I don't email.
Teamwork.
It would be good to check references though.
Yeah.
I have a call out.
And so, you know, and if you want to modify so we can do it down, move forward, if the board gives an order, you know, and if references come back good, we can go with Teamwork. If they don't, we pick a different one. And funding.
Yeah, I'll modify my motion to add pending positive reference check.
I'll second again.
Any further discussion?
Boy, there's a lot of price difference. But I'm ready to vote.
Yes, there is. Thank you for noticing.
Did you see one with like 6,000?
I was just focused
I
on,
just feel like the admin team is who's going to need to work with them closely, and it needs to be a good partnership. And if that's who they're comfortable going with, I want to support them.
I like the accountability sheets.
Yeah, I'm comfortable as long as the reference checks come back and have
Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
aye.
Okay, thank you. Motion passes. Move forward with Teamwork.
Yep, saying them this.
Up next, preliminary staffing plan.
That was what I spoke to before, so it's time for motion. Motion on that.
So can you pull up again, what are we voting on though? We're voting to approve an additional speech
and early childhood special ed. This one.
and do we have the budget for that?
Yes. I've worked with Julie already, and yes, we do.
motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, passes. Up next, my favorite and Jacob's favorite topic, I'm sure, the high school handbook update to clarify the dance and prom section. Do you want to speak to it, or do you want me to?
If you want to, go for it.
Okay, so as you recall, last year we had a bit of a kerfuffle over prom, and so Steve had worked with the junior class officers last year, who are seniors this year, to come up with what they want their rules to be for prom. So they wanted it to be for juniors and seniors, and they could bring a guest, don't have to be dating, just a guest, could be a sophomore through a 19-year-old. And the intent was that if that was last year, that's not new, right? So their intent in doing that was so that if you were dating someone that graduated or wanted to bring a guest that graduated last year from La Crescent and they were no longer a student here but were 19 or under, they could bring them. And the way the wording was updated is that was not clear. And so we've updated the wording to make it clear that for prom, your guest can be a, well, you can read it. Yeah, scroll down a little bit.
There you go. That's the part.
So it's number 4 that is really what we're updating to clarify. So that's not a change to what they wanted. It's just clarifying in words what their intent was. And this is in the high school handbook, this is not a policy, and so we do need a motion to approve that clarification and language.
Motion to approve.
Okay, any discussion?
Will this be relayed to the students specifically? Like called out, read over the intercom, email?
They're aware. Yeah.
Prior?
Yeah. I kind of gave Jacob the authorization to send it out ahead of time, because I knew the board meeting was gonna be here, and, you know, heaven forbid the girls get their dresses like 6 months in advance, so there are plans in place.
Okay, all in favor of approving the change to the handbook language, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. We'll try not to bother you about prom anymore, Jacob.
Well, we only got, what, 9 days left?
Yeah. Okay, next we will be moving into closed section pursuant to Minnesota Statute 13D under the open meeting law. Is there an action or a motion to move into closed session?
Motion to move.
Second.
Yep.
We take a short
Okay,
recess.
any
Yeah.
discussion?
Who's a second?
Darcy. All in favor of moving into closed session, please say aye. Aye. And we will take a 5-minute recess and then come back for the closed session.
And actually, can we do the closed session in the conference room downstairs? Because that way Brittany can use the time to.
Not to discipline board, but
Yes, we're moving downstairs to the conference room, which will allow us to walk a little bit too. Especially today, my old bones use it.
Yes.
What time were you born?
The after party?
3 o'clock.
In the afternoon?
Yeah, right after school.
You are officially.
I'm officially 1 year older.
Made it one more trip around the sun.
Exactly. Yeah, this is what I was referencing when I was saying in the board and the negotiations. That because of the years I've taught and my age, if I added them together, I could have met Rule of 90 this year.
I don't think
Brittany,
like
do you
that.
want us to load up all our stuff and take it down, or do you want us to leave our stuff here? Where's your card?
She'll clean up, so.
Yeah, if you take it down.
Yeah, where are they? We can have, for this auspicious
Motion
event, we can have some nuggets by
Motion
10.
to adjourn? Is that what we're looking for? Or we motion to come out of closed session?
We did that already.
Motion to adjourn.
First, second. Okay, meeting is adjourned.
All right.